Hello all, we are here for the lesson number 14 of the VariCAD training course, and this lesson is called Selecting 2D Locations. So in this lesson we are going to see about a lot of topics, all of them regarding how to select entities, points and the specific location. On the previous lesson we've been seeing about selecting objects, now it's about locations. So let us try to do something very easy to start, and I will draw a line, a simple line, and I will draw also a circle, okay? Very easy, very basic entities. So at this moment, if I want to draw something else, for example another line, I get in my screen for this toolbar called location, and I'm allowed to make selections in my screen for what I can call interesting points or snap points. Okay, so let us start to see what do I have available in my functions. So regarding these 2D snap points, I can start in this function here, call it endpoint, and I will start in this one, construction lines intersection. All of these commands in the middle are 2D snap points. So let us start and check all of them. So I want to create a line. At this moment the software is asking for an endpoint. Okay, so I can give to the program the point where I want to start my entity, in this case a line, by several snap points. The first one, and it is called, if you hold a little on top of the command you'll get a highlight, and it's called endpoint. And the endpoint, I can, if I go near my endpoint of the line, I don't need to click on the exact point that I'm looking for. Just when it highlights, it's enough to click then. So, and I've chosen the endpoint. The same was available if I had an arc. I will create a very simple arc, and I will say it again. So endpoint this time of the arc or the line. Next, the middle point. In the middle point, if I'm on top of the entity, midpoint and midpoint. Okay. The other one is circle or arc center. Okay. If I'm around the center, here I'm not getting it. Okay, it did not highlight, so just click on the entity. I have this function also that is called nearest, and the nearest, it does not get me any particular point, just a point near the cursor where I am and lying on top of the entity. So this is not any specific point, but if I click, I get one point that I know that is on top of the entity. This is for the point entity. Okay, I don't have any drawn, but I can draw a point. You've seen it already. I will click here for example, and I've done one point. Now if I try to do a line and do point, okay, I don't get any other entities, but if I go on top of the point, okay, I can get it. Okay. This is insertion point, and the insertion point is used for these kind of symbols or blocks that we still did not see, but I will use one of these symbols. I will put one of those, and I will use the insertion point as this endpoint. Okay, now if I go to the line and I said insertion point of this symbol, I will get the end point of the line. Okay, so this is used when I insert a symbol or a block. I can get the insertion point. I will pass over this one for now, and I will go to these four, and these are the quadrants of a circle. Okay, first quadrant, I click on the circle and I'll get this quadrant, and the other functions are similar, second, third and fourth quadrant. Okay, so it's quite similar. This one gets the exact cursor location, so if I click somewhere, it will click on the point where I was clicking. I can get also the nearest grid point, and we've already seen in the previous lesson that when we have the grid displayed, I can use those points for several things and connected with a snap option. But if I go here, if I click somewhere around one of these points, these ones or this kind, it will get me the grid point. Okay, I think it's quite easy also to understand. And finally, this construction lines intersection. Okay, I don't have any construction lines. We've seen in the previous lesson also about construction lines. Basically, it's when we have these construction lines, I'll try to create just simple ones. And now a vertical one as example only. Okay. These are a little different lines as we've seen in the previous lesson. So if I want to grab an intersection of them, okay, I can go here and I get the intersection. Okay, I think it's quite easy for you to understand. Basically, these are the 2D snap points options, but besides this, I can have some combination of location points, and these combinations are these 6 options here. Okay, these are quite interesting because we have several possibilities to use. And the first one, it's quite easy, and it is called halfway between points. So again, I'm trying to draw a line, and I want to grab not a specific point that I have, but I want to grab the middle point between 2 other points. So I can give this and this, and what I get is the middle point between them, which is very interesting. I have this second function that is called distance from line and point. And basically, it allows me to, I will select a line, and you have to pay attention to which is the nearest endpoint, because it will be the endpoint that will be chosen to be used in this command. So I'm from the middle of the line to this side, so it will use this endpoint. So I will click the entity, and now I will say, for example, 20 millimeters, and it will, okay, it count from here, which is the end point, to the inside of the entity to empty, and it grabbed me a point. Okay, if I add click to this side, it will do the same function, but from this point. Now I have another function, which is the intersection and intersection of extensions. Okay, basically it's used when I have an intersection between two entities, or if I want to get an intersection but they don't cross at the moment. So I can have, for example, this one and this one, and it will calculate the point where they should intersect. Okay. I have another function also that is called intersection angle, and this is I'll try to explain, because what it does is intersection of a selected object and the line created from the last point at a specific angle. So let me try to show you. I will create two new entities here. One is this one, and I'll create another one to here, for example. And this is the last point I've clicked. Okay. Now, if I want to create a new line with this option, the first thing you need to notice is that the software highlighted the last point I click. Now I will say 45 degrees, and I will click this entity, and what the software does is, from this point it will create a 45 imaginary line, and it will extend this one. Okay, and here it is. Okay, it's there are very specific situations where this is quite useful, but you need to understand the concept to use this. Very similar to this in terms of the conception of the command is the perpendicular from last location, and it's always from last location. So you've seen that the last point I had, it was this one with a small cross, and now I need to say, okay, I want a perpendicular to this entity here. Okay, and it's in this point. Okay. I will click some other point, it doesn't matter, to show you this last one, which is tangent from a location. Again, last point click, it was this, the arc I want is this. Okay, tangent one. I think it's the important thing here is to understand that this works always with the last point given. We have a couple more things regarding this subject to see, and these ones are, let me try to open a little more the drawing. Okay, here it is. And these are these first functions here. Okay, this fourth one, and these we can call that are, it's a definition of the points done by the keyboard, or I like to call them absolute or incremental coordinates or polar coordinates, whatever you want. There are other names in other software. So the first concept you need to understand on this is that we work with coordinates, and if we don't give any other information, we are working with absolute coordinates, and the coordinate system, the world coordinate system of the VariCAD is here. Okay, if you go and approximate the entities of this point, it should give you 0, 0. But let us try to work a little about this, and we will see how this works. So basically, if I click on that option, I can give the coordinate in X and the coordinate in Y. So I'll give 0, 0, and here I am, okay? So 0, 0 here. And if I give at this moment 50 and, for example, 20, okay, I have a line on those coordinates. Back to cursor and it's active. Perfect. These are the normal coordinates, absolute coordinates. I can work with incremental ones, okay? The dx, dy coordinates. And basically works as the previous one, but now the software does not look to the 0, 0 point or the origin point, but always will look to the last point given. And from the last point, I can give, for example, 20 and 30, for example, and enter. Okay? It will work always. It's asking a new point, but again, where is the cross is the point that is taking as the origin. Okay? Back to cursor. To see the third option that I call polar coordinates. And the polar coordinates is something that is related to the point that is shown in the screen, but the data that we give is an angle and a vector on that angle. Okay, I will give, for example, 10 degrees. I will say distance is 50 millimeters. So from this point, and considering that the horizontal line is the 0 degrees, as it is shown here, it will open 10 degrees, and on the taking this as origin with that 10-degree line, it will count and measure 50. So enter, it will do something similar. And again, now I will give, for example, 45, and I would say 30 millimeters. And that's it. I think it's quite easy. The last option of this is something called fixed length arc, angle or coordinate. And basically it opens a dialog box where I can give some information. Okay, I can say, okay, I can work with the absolute or incremental. I can define a new coordinate system, whatever I want. Okay, I will click on this. Sorry, I will keep the incremental, sorry. And from the incremental, from the last point, I say that I want to work with a fixed distance, for example. And the fixed distance, it will be, I want that on the X regarding the location where I am now, where I have the cross, I want 20 millimeters. And okay. Now, if you see my line, independent of the point where I'm clicking again, it does not have more than, in fact, it's exact distance. It has only from here to here on the X axis only 20, okay? And I can call that window, that dialog box, clicking here, or I can click on the tab key of the keyboard, okay? It will open the window. So basically it fixes the distance in XY, or the length here, or the angle, for example 45, okay? And now it's fixed on the angle. I cannot change the angle, but I can give a different length. Or if I want to change to absolute coordinates, it will look always, okay, from the origin, and say from the origin to the X positive direction, I count 20, and you see that the point is fixed, okay? This is quite useful in some situations. it's really a matter of working a little about this concept, but I think it's interesting, and if you work a lot with the 2D drawings, I think you'll find what is good and how to take advantage of these commands. So with this last option, I think I've shown you everything about these 2D locations, and I hope to see you on the next lesson.